Hello and welcome once again to Ignite Your Impact. My name is Jen Rhodes. I am seated directly to the right of Mr. Matt.
Good morning. You sound pretty serious.
I'm always serious. I'm always serious about success.
There you go.
And igniting people's impact. I'm never serious. You're distracting me.
It's a perfect lead in.
It was.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about distractions.
Yeah. So if you found this video by way of distraction on YouTube, welcome. I'm Jen. This is Matt. I'm going to just dive right on in.
Yeah.
In terms of distractions.
Yeah. So I think distractions are one of the biggest dream killers. And they can get in the way of a lot of things. And you may be saying to yourself, yeah, I know what you're talking about, distractions with emails and phone calls. And that is one type of distraction. And we're going to touch on that, but we really want to go more below the surface because there's a second type of distraction. And this one's a really tough one. And the reason it's so tough, well, the reason the first one is so easy is because it's easy to spot that, hey, I'm on my email too much today. I'm on social too much. I haven't gotten anything done. Too many meetings, too many phone calls. That's kind of an easy one to sit back and say, man, I didn't get anything done today.
And you can also set boundaries with that. Like I can turn snooze on.
Yeah.
Right?
So that one, even though that is a dream killer, stiller, however you want to say it, the second one is what is so tough. And the first one, you can do it for a long time and then and make a quick change. The second one is so tough because it's something that can go on for years and you don't realize it's a distraction in your life. And that is really where the dream stiller comes from. And it's tough to understand because you're doing all the right things. You're trying to do the right things. And that's why it's so hard to realize this is a distraction for me because you feel like you're going in the right direction. And again, we're not going to dig into the first one too much, but I want to give an example of that first one outside of the emails and the phone calls and the social because there's another one, and it's a personal example of some distractions that I had probably in the last 6 months. As our online company has grown, we've started to get a lot more traction in the marketing world and other areas.
Oh my God, the cold DMs.
Yeah, the cold DMs. I think we talked about that before. God. But these guys and gals are really good. They know how to market. And I was, getting on a few too many Zoom calls with some of them to listen about their product and realized that I was really kind of making mistake number one. I was doing things to avoid doing other things. And that is a distraction. So beyond the normal things that you can look at, you also need to look at your schedule. That is one that you can quickly fix once you realize it. I realized that I was getting too distracted from what I really wanted to do. And it was more about just get out by yourself, keep putting content out, keep helping clients, and you don't need the next best funnel or the next best marketing thing out there to get the job done. And another thing is a lot of these people, as we've said before, didn't have the receipts to prove it. They failed in business, yet they're trying to tell you how to do their business. And it was a distraction. That was one of them.
Okay, so I shared this before we came on to record with Matt. So bear with me. We're going to date ourselves. But I want you to think about the video game Legend of Zelda or any other treasure-based game. I don't know. Anyway, I'm definitely dating myself. But along the way, there's a quest. He is on to save the princess. We can do Mario Brothers if you want.
Legend of Zelda is perfect.
I like Zelda. Because along the way, there's certain things you have to learn. There's certain skills you have to possess. There's certain tools that you have to gather before you can level up. Holy shit, what a metaphor, right? And also along the way in this game, there are time suckers. There are little trolls that will lead you down the wrong path. I can see it.
You play too many video games.
I do. I can see it. But think about how many times you've played that game, if you're old like us, that you wasted so much time, looking down one path and it ended up not helping you. You can easily recognize when you are distracting yourself. You can easily recognize, whoa, you get you get a time report on your iPhone every week. You spent 7 hours on social media this week. Like, holy shit, I got a problem. And then you can course correct. The second one, like you described, it's hard to recognize because you feel like you're going in the right direction. Your heart is in the right place. This second type of distraction, you're doing the right things right, or so it feels. It's just in the wrong area. You don't know you're getting led down a path by a stupid little troll. You could be grinding and focusing on all the little different aspects and thinking that you're doing everything for the right reason. And it's just in the wrong area.
I think what you just said, though, this distraction thing isn't just about weight loss.
No.
This is about business. This is about mindset. This is about relationships. This is about anything in your world where you're actually putting in effort and your heart's there and you're wanting to do it right. And you're just not getting to that end path.
Yeah. I saw a meme on Facebook. I'm getting distracted. I saw a meme this morning that one of my friends posted that was like, my dog's overweight, so I know he needs to eat less and walk more. And I'm overweight, but I'm going to try all these different things and do this keto and intermittent fasting, and I'm going to blow into this little machine to see if I'm metabolizing carbs versus fats. So, like, you know the problem. At surface level, it sounds like you know the tactics, and then you just really distract yourself, right? At the core of it, weight loss is eating less, moving more. There's other tactics in that, but if you can't handle the first, don't start the second step or I don't know, all of these devices that I'm seeing.
That's pretty funny. Let's dig a little bit deeper and get below that surface level that we talked about.
Yeah.
There's, I want you to share a little bit about, we said it's tough because there can be for us personally, there was a major distraction in our life, which was I would say it's there's never a good distraction. But this is the exact example that we're talking about where it's tough to realize this because we had our heart in the right place. We were doing all the right things, it seemed like. We wanted to do all these things. And it was with our yoga studios. If you could maybe share just a little bit about that, how that was a distraction that people may not realize that they have in their life, how that was a distraction for us.
Yeah. So for us, we started opening these yoga studios with the idea that we wanted to have an impact on people's health long term. The vehicle, yoga, has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So we thought, well, that's probably not a trend.
Which it's not.
It's not. But it's something that we felt like, okay, this could be something that could help people and also put us financially in a good spot. So we started opening studios and we started teaching classes. Well, I did. And then we started doing all the sales and the follow-up, as you should with business. And all of a sudden, we're running all the events and managing all the social media. That in itself is a full-time job. And we ended up spending there time. We ended up spending money. We ended up spending energy in areas that didn't really make a major impact. Now, did we make impact with those studios? I feel like we did. I feel like we touched hundreds of lives. But once we started doing this deep mindset work, at the end of the day, when it was time to make a decision. It was an all or nothing moment. Matt said, what do you want to do? Are you still wanting to change lives? I said, yes, but I want to change hundreds of thousands of lives. I can't do that with this vehicle.
That's a perfect way of saying it. Opening yoga studios for the reason that we did them was a great decision if that's what you want to do. But deep down, once, as Jen said, we started doing that work, we realized that's not the impact we want to do or leave. So it was a good distraction for us because we were doing the right things. We just didn't realize that it was bogging us down to do what we truly were meant to be, what we truly wanted to do in our life. and what God put us here for. It was not to open yoga studios, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't meet the level of impact that we want to give. So it was a distraction in our long-term thinking. I don't want to ever say it stole 5 years of our life, because it didn't, because there was a lot of learnings on that path.
We learned so much.
But it was a 5-year pit stop where we didn't get where we wanted to go, and we weren't making the impact that we wanted to do financially for us or for other people as well. That is a good example of a distraction that you may have something like that in your life, where your heart's in it, you're doing the right things, you're pushing really hard, but when you sit back at the end of the day, you say, man, is this really what I was meant to do? Is this what God put me on this earth to do? And if it's not, then that may be that tough, hidden distraction that is keeping you from your God-given talents.
I want to define, though, because prior to doing our deep mindset work, in my heart of hearts, I know that God put me on this earth to change people's lives through fitness and nutrition. I know that. But once we started doing that work, we were able to define the scope of the impact that we wanted.
Yep.
And so, you mentioned as a 5-year pit stop, what a great way to put us in a spot where we had to define. So why don't you go through some of the tactics that helped us speed up the decision? Like, we were stuck for a very long time until we went through these tactics. And we use these often now.
Yeah. So when we were putting this together, I think as most anyone listening knows, and if you don't, we try not to make too many notes. We like to talk a little bit off cuff, but we always have kind of what our closing will be. And we said we want to get across a few points because we want to provide value to you today and how you can get through this tough distraction. And these 3 points it was like that because we still use them to today. We know that's what got us over the hump. We know this will help you as well. So let's jump into those 3.
I love it.
First one is you got to think, what results do you want long-term, but not how are you going to get there? So when you start thinking about long-term, for us, it was this massive impact, and we still want to do that, but you can't get bogged up in the small things on how you're going to get there. That all will come because you can't see 8 steps ahead of you until you've taken the first 2. So you start to think long-term what you want to do, and those things will start to fall in place as long as that's your passion. And you got to think big. I mean, really, really big. And then the middle pieces. When you're trying to go from A to C, B will fall into place. But if you think too small, you don't think long-term enough, you'll never get there. That is exactly what we did with those yoga studios. We thought short-term.
Yes.
It was not a long-term thing. That's why you have to think big. What do you want to do? And then you start working towards that. And the way we did that was we just, as Jen said earlier, she basically said, number one, we sat down and said, what do we really want? Now let's find a vehicle to do that. And that vehicle doesn't mean it's going to be overnight. It takes time sometimes, but we know what our end goal is. We know where we want to go. And that's the first step. Find out where you want to go, but think big. Don't put yourself in a box. The second one is find the fastest way to get there. And when I say that, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about a get-rich-quick scheme. If you're thinking business, if you're thinking fitness, I'm not talking about joining a 6-week challenge so you can lose 30 pounds. That is not necessarily the right way to go. Now, don't get me wrong. Challenges are great. They get you a good start. But you got to get there as fast as you possibly can, but you got to do it the right way. And this goes back to finding that proven solution. I'm trying to get our business growing even faster. And that's why I was meeting with a lot of these coaches and realized that there was not a proven system. So that's where you got to be really careful on number 2. You want to get there fast, but you want to do it the right way. But sometimes when you do that, it is going to cost some money. If you guys have been listening to us, in any length of time, you know that we invested a lot of money in coaches. And we've found a inner circle of coaches now that's kind of where we go to when we need anything. But it cost us a lot of money. But at the end of the day, that money meant nothing compared to the return that we got on that investment by paying that. They fixed all the solutions we needed to get fixed. And
without having to deal with any of the trolls along the path.
And this brings up a good point. You shared your Zelda story earlier, which was really good. I want to drive home this point number 2, that it is not lazy, it's smart to get there faster. So I'm going to tell a little story. And I may butcher it, but I'll try and do the Cliff Notes version of this there was a Boilermaker who was hired to fix a huge steamship boiler system. So we got a big steamship. Think about a big steamship, and they got a boiler down there. So they hire this Boilermaker because it's not working right. And he comes in and he goes down to the steam room. And of course, he sees steam everywhere. He hears weird noises. Things are not working very good. So he walks around for maybe 5 minutes, looks around at a few different things, touches a few knobs, and then walks over to a red little valve, pulls out this little hammer, and taps this little red valve 3 to 4 times. And all of a sudden it's fixed. This huge problem on this very big steamship, he fixed with just a couple taps. So everyone's happy. Business can go on. We fixed the solution. Things are great. He leaves and he sends his invoice to the owner of the steamship. And when the owner of the steamship gets the bill, he's irate. He's furious. He calls the Boilermaker and says, how could you charge me $1,000? You were only here for like 15 minutes. The Boilermaker says, yeah, I get that. No problem. I'll send you an itemized invoice which explains the cost of the $1,000. So he sends him a new invoice. It says $50 for labor, $950 for knowing where to hit the hammer. The point of that is sometimes you've got to look outside and not worry about the cost to fix a solution, to find a solution and fix the problem, to get there quicker. So number 1, and Jen's going to recap us with number 3, but number 1, find out where you want to go long term and think big. Number 2, find ways that can get you there quicker and more efficiently.
Number 3, when you start to feel scattered, go back to 1 and 2.
Because you will feel scattered. Things will happen.
I revisit this so very often because I get distracted. We're human. The mind is going to wander. And if at any point you feel scattered, if you feel cluttered, if you feel distracted, go back to your purpose. What are you put on this earth for? Number 2, who's got the better map? Like when my foundational principles with my fitness, with my nutrition, with my finance, with my business, when those foundational principles get scattered, that's when everything starts to feel shaky. But what I've done is I've paid for coaches that have taught me how to solidify those foundational principles. And that I do. The minute I feel like I'm in the weeds, God bless you, John, our mentor, Jen, get out of the weeds. Like I still hear him in my head because I just wanted to scramble and do all the tactics.
You saying that reminds me, anyone listening, this sounds so easy. Seriously, I've been listening to you guys for almost 20 minutes and you're going to give me these 2 pieces of advice?
3. There's 3.
This is what works.
Yeah.
It literally works. And that's what's a point of that number 2, hiring good people, because Jen immediately can go back to her conversation with John about being in the weeds. I go back to my notes with William on things. When all of a sudden I start to feel scattered, I don't feel like I'm doing the right things. Where am I at? When am I going in the right direction? I go back to my notes. I go back to the training that I paid for. And I still get a return on investment today from training I took 2 years ago from the notes that I took.
Yes. Even some of like the sub trainings we've been through, our little like weekly phone calls. It's so funny you say that.
So that's why number 3 is so important.
Yeah.
You can do 1 and 2 and keep moving on, but things come up for Jen and I too. We have to go back to 1 and 2.
Yeah. I love it. Guys, I hope you found value in today's episode. It's a little bit shorter than usual. But if you liked it, share it. Tag us in your Insta stories. Give us a 5-star review. That's the only way we can grow our impact. And if anything, we'll talk to you guys next time.